I'd like to take this time to talk about a phenomenon that I've found. In my opinion, 18 is the year of comparison. It's a time of transition, a time where we take our first step into the unknown. College, new friends, new environment, and for a lot of us, a new personality, a new version of who we are. And at that age, interestingly enough, another thing happens. We start to see what other people are doing. We become hyper-fixated on what others' accomplishments are and what they're going to set out to do. In my opinion, there's a problem with that, because I find myself comparing myself to others a lot. It just seems like it's part of who I am. And the problem is, that's uncomfortable for me to say, because I know that comparison is bad. I mean, there are a lot of reasons not to compare, and I'm sure that we've heard of all these reasons. For example, success for you is different than success for others. You don't know the full story. Is it really how it seems? We all start in different places. Oh, my favorite one is actually external validation isn't as meaningful as internal validation, and you can't be the best at everything. Now, these are all valid reasons, but the problem is we still compare ourselves anyway, because it's in our human nature. It's like who we are. At 18, we also realize another thing. Society celebrates being early. You know, the early bird gets the worm. Take a person, for example, who has known that they have wanted to be a doctor their whole life. So in high school, they take advanced chemistry and biology courses. They start a foundation to raise money for leukemia. They shadow a doctor, and they do research at a local university. That person is probably going to get into one of the best pre-med colleges in the world. And that makes sense, because they've worked hard. They have known that they have wanted to be a doctor their entire life. And now all their hard work in high school is working off. But the problem is, what if you don't know what you want to do? And if I'm honest, that's the problem that I find myself in, because I just haven't found that thing yet. And when I compare myself to other people who have found that thing, I feel weird. It makes me uncomfortable. It makes me feel like everybody else got some sort of instruction and I'm left behind playing catch up. But there's a sixth reason as to why comparison is bad. I'm sure we're all familiar with the 10,000 hours rule. It's this idea that greatness comes from intense, hyper-focused practice. Tiger Woods, he is the poster child for this. At 7 months old, his father gave him a set of golf gloves. 2 years later, he was showing off his perfect swing on the Mike Douglas show on live television. Tiger trained like he was in the military. His father would scream in his backswing to try to get him to harden up. His father would whisper insults in his ear to try to get him to crack. But Tiger never did crack, and he won everything he could as a teenager. Then, when he went on to Stanford, he was notorious for practicing early in the morning, before class, after class, before practice, after practice. He was known for hitting golf balls at night with a headlamp and a flashlight. And he was known to fall asleep to slow-motion golf swing videos. That story's inspiring, because it's this idea that Tiger put his head down and he practiced as hard as he could and he achieved his goal. But take Roger Federer. He didn't start playing tennis regularly until he was 14 years old. That's just weird. I mean, I kind of wonder if he had a lot of accomplishments. Oh, yeah, he did have a lot of accomplishments. And he's not the only one. One of my favorite basketball players of all time, Hakeem Olajuwon, who I think is one of the most underrated ones, he didn't start playing organized basketball until he was 15 years old. Tim Duncan, Didier Drogba, who's one of my favorite soccer players, he too also started in their late teens. This is just confusing. And it confused me too. When researchers looked at elite athletes, they found that the best ones didn't specialize early. They sampled. They played lots of sports. They explored. They delayed commitment. And when they finally did specialize, they had broader skills and fewer injuries too. Roger Federer played basketball, soccer, he skateboarded, he wrestled, he played rugby. He basically played every sport under the sun when he was a teenager. And now, he is one of the best tennis players to ever play. And the thing is, this doesn't just happen in sports. In education systems in England and Scotland, a study found something similar. Students in England are forced to specialize early. They pick a topic, they study hard, and they earn higher wages at first. However, they are more likely to change their job when they're older. But students in Scotland, however, they are allowed to explore. They're encouraged to explore. And when they finally do enter the job market, they find jobs that give them more satisfaction and stronger long-term growth. Scottish students did not win at the start, but they found something that they really liked, and they continued, and they progressed. This is interesting. It's just a weird phenomenon because we're taught that practice makes perfect, that the early bird gets the worm. But Duke Ellington shunned music lessons as a kid to play basketball and to paint. Claude Shannon, the man who invented the binary system in all of our computers, he wanted to be a philosopher. And he learned about that binary system through a century-old idea that coded true and false statements as ones and zeros. Vincent van Gogh picked 5 other disciplines before declaring his true calling, before he picked up the ABCs of drawing and enrolled in art school, being twice the age as every other person around him. And my favorite, Frances Hesselbein. She didn't take a professional job until she was 54 years old, but that job was in the Girl Scouts. She became CEO of the Girl Scouts, which was a dying company. She saved it, tripled minority membership, and was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Then, at 82, she left the Girl Scouts to start her own leadership foundation, which she ran until she died 3 years ago at 107 years old. Why do we never hear about these stories? I think it's because we can apply the Tiger Woods story to almost anything in our lives, because it's easy to put our head down and practice, but it's not good, because golf isn't a good model on almost anything us humans want to learn. Psychologist Robin Hogarth has coined the terms kind versus wicked learning environments. You can think of kind learning environments as ones that are dictated by stable rules and repetitive patterns. Feedback is quick and accurate, and work next year will look like work this year. Think of golf or chess. A ball or piece has moved according to a set of rules and a set of boundaries, and feedback is apparent. But in wicked learning environments, feedback might not exist. It could be absent, delayed, inaccurate altogether, and work last year may not look like work this year. We live in a wicked world, and early specialization can backfire. A study across 12 different countries compared general education to more specified career-focused education. They found that people with career-focused education tended to earn more money at the beginning and be hired quickly. However, they were less adaptable to such an extent that they had to take time out of the workplace to learn and grow. Another example is a 20-year study done on geopolitical and economic predictors. And they found that the best predictors, the best forecasters, were those who didn't specialize early, because the hyper-specialists had been focusing on such narrow problems for so long that they came to see the view through a single lens. So the question now is to ask, what is the map to success? What's the right path? And that's a difficult answer, because there are a lot of paths, actually. And it doesn't just look like a straight line. It can look jagged or even looped. A study done on technological innovations found that the most impactful patents were not those authored by individuals who dug deeper and deeper into one area. They were authored by a large group of individuals who didn't specialize and had a wide variety of interests. My favorite example of this is Gunpei Yokoi. Yokoi didn't do well on his mechanics exam at school, so he had to settle for a low-tier maintenance worker at a toy shop in Kyoto. Realizing he wasn't equipped to work on the cutting edge, he noticed that there was a wealth of information out there, and that all he had to do was combine it in a way that specialists might overlook. And so, he took well-known information from the credit card industry and paired it with other information from other handheld game companies and created a small handheld game, like a Game Boy. And it was a hit. People loved it. And he transformed that small company, started in a wooden shack in the 19th century, into a toy and game powerhouse called Nintendo. There's an analogy that I really, really like from David Epstein. He is a frontrunner on this kind of research. In a healthy ecosystem, we need both frogs and birds. Frogs are down in the mud, digging deeper and deeper into one area of an ecosystem, trying to find out everything possible about that one area. Birds are above, not necessarily seeing the same details of the frogs, but integrating the knowledge of the frogs. The problem is we incentivize being a frog. And in Epstein's words, in a wicked world, that's increasingly short-sighted. Because the reality is, and the sixth reason as to why comparison is bad, head starts are overrated. I challenge you all to explore, not by digging deeper into one topic, but by widening your view of the world. And if you feel behind, good, because you might get ahead later. Thank you.